Welcome to episode 19 of the Willpower Podcast. My guest today is Robert Glover. Robert wrote the book No More Mr. Nice Guy a few decades ago, and the sales of that book have only increased over time. Today, No More Mr. Nice Guy is more important than ever. Listen to the rest of this conversation to understand what a nice guy is, why you don't want to be a nice guy, and how to go about recovering. We go everywhere in this conversation. We talk about relationships, we talk about uncovering shame, and we even get into some of Robert's experiences with ayahuasca. Enjoy. Why is it so hard to stop being a nice guy?
You just come out with the big guns, right? All right. Are we going to assume that your people listening know what a nice guy is and why it'd be a good idea to stop being a nice guy?
Let's define a nice guy first. So I just ran through your book again, No More Mr. Nice Guy. I cannot I don't know. It's a great book. I think all the listeners would be great off reading it. But yeah, let's go through what a nice guy is to start.
Yeah, to kind of to kind of just tee up, why can't some people stop being a nice guy? I know when I wrote and published the book, and it's been out about 20 something years now, my agent actually said, maybe we should change the title. I said, no, non-negotiable. I love the title. And then about 15 years later, when he gave me the $75,000 advance check for the Audible version, when I went back to New York to read it, he goes, that was such a good idea to call that No More Mr. Nice Guy. And I didn't tell him, hey, Nate, you tried to talk me out of it. So the idea is it's kind of paradoxical. Why would someone write a book teaching guys to be not nice? Aren't there enough not nice guys out there? But of course, the idea of nice guy is, I give it a spin and a definition in the book, No More Mr. Nice Guy. And early on in the book, I talk about what are all the problems with being a nice guy. So let's start with what is a nice guy. My kind of a little elevator pitch of what is a nice guy was a nice guy syndrome. A nice guy is a person who at a very early age internalized an emotional belief, I'm not okay just as I am. Term for that is called toxic shame. I'm bad, I'm unlovable, I'm not good enough. And this is an emotional belief. It's not a cognitive belief. Now, we may add cognitive reinforcement to that as we grow, but we internalize this at 2 weeks old, 2 months old, 2 years old, when we had painful or uncomfortable experiences because we were totally dependent, totally needy, totally vulnerable. And if we didn't get fed when we were hungry, or didn't get wrapped up when we were cold, or didn't get changed when we pooped our diapers, that was painful. It was uncomfortable. It felt like abandonment. It felt like death. And children are narcissistic and self-centered by nature. And there's this emotional internalization that I caused that. So I must be bad. I caused this pain, this discomfort. Now, again, it's not thinking, it's emotions. And every human experiences this to some degree. And then we also do a couple of things. Again, not thinking, purely emotionally reflexive, like a dog. If you kick it enough, it'll develop reflexes to avoid getting kicked. We try to do two things. We try to find ways to minimize the discomfort we're feeling in the moment. So some babies cry, some babies sleep, some babies suck their thumb. I did that till I was in kindergarten. So that's how I managed discomfort. And then we also try to find ways to prevent whatever we think caused those experiences from happening again, right? And even though we don't really know what caused them to happen, we assumed it was us. We try to be different in some way to not cause that to happen. All humans do this. This is what neuroses is. This is what we learned to do as children to adapt to our surroundings using very limited resources and very little cognitive functioning. Then we carry that into adulthood and we see ourselves in the world through that lens, and we interact with the world through these neurotic ways of being. They're less than functional ways of being in the world when we have true adult power. So nice guy syndrome is just one form of neuroses. And what the nice guys is trying to do, usually two things. become what I think you want me to be in order to get your approval, to be liked, to love, to get my needs met. So number one, I'm approval seeking. I'm reading and measuring all the time. Am I doing it right? Am I good enough? Does that person like me? Second thing the nice guy's trying to do is to hide or minimize anything about themselves they think might get a negative reaction. Being punished, being rejected, being hurt, being laughed at, being looking foolish. So nice guys tend to hide their feelings, their wants, their desires, their expectations, and especially their sexuality. Because pretty much worldwide, culturally, sex is still seen as something dirty, evil, and sinful. And so nice guys hide and repress all that stuff. Now, it still finds ways to get expressed. What you repress gets expressed, but it comes out kind of in the shadow, in dark, passive, aggressive, hidden kind of ways. So nice guys are really inauthentic because I'm trying to please you. There's no me here. I'm trying to figure out what, and then I'll go over here to somebody else and try to please them. And we're not at all transparent or honest or real because we're hiding everything that might get a negative reaction. And that's how we're going through life, trying to be liked and loved and get our needs met. And unfortunately, is mostly highly ineffective. But for all human beings, all we know how to do is just keep repeating what our neurosis taught us to do from an early age, even though it doesn't work anymore. So we just double down, trying to please more, trying to hide more, which is, of course, just leads to more of the kind of problems those things create. So that, in a nutshell, is the nice guy.
Yeah. And so what makes it so difficult to break those patterns and make our way out of that?
Yeah, because they really do go back to the core of our emotional experience in life. Because, like, for example, I've been working at my nice guy issues for about 30 years. And, I've written a book on it. I've written 4 books in total. I've been working with nice guys for 30 years. For the last 20 plus years, that's all I've done is work with men, primarily nice guys. So I've worked with thousands of nice guys. I've done through, tons of therapy myself. I've been in my own men's programs and men's groups. And so, I've done a lot of work on me. And where I notice that my nice guy patterns still show up, it's always because something emotionally gets triggered for me, an anxiety state or a shame state. And then this reflexive reaction happens. Now, the difference is I know where those triggers are. I know what's likely to trigger me. I know what the emotional states are. I know what my reactive, kind of almost reflexive responses are. And I know now how to ground myself, soothe myself, think differently about the situation. But even after 30 years of working on myself, what's down deep in my emotional nervous system is still pretty strong. It's pretty deeply embedded. Those neural pathways are pretty strong. So this is kind of how we'll begin to tee up that thing of why it's so hard for nice guys to change, to break free, to come out of that nice guy syndrome, is mainly because most of what's happening is happening sub-thought, is happening in unconscious reactions. And as Carl Jung said, until we make the unconscious conscious, it'll rule our life, and we'll call it fate. And we'll just how come these same things keep happening to me over and over again? Well, the world will always believe as we believe the world to be. Whatever we think the world is, our confirmation bias will always find that to be true, and we'll co-create and repeat situations that feel familiar, that fit our world, our worldview, our world map. So this is, as a therapist, this is kind of the core thing of, why does therapy work and why does therapy, not always work? Why is it challenging? Because for every human being, our neuroses and defense mechanisms are so deeply ingrained because they're tied to our survival, to our fight, flight, freeze, to the amygdala that's down here on the brain stem that we believe kept us alive. Like I said, most of this is not conscious, very unconscious, of just reacting to stimuli in our environment in just those unthought about, unconscious kind of ways.
Yeah, let's go into shame a little bit because
Okay. That's a fun subject.
Yeah, I know. It sounds like in your book you talk about how releasing shame is like one of the biggest things that nice guys can do in
Right.
terms of moving along their path. And that sounds so great. And then in my experience, like as soon as shame comes up, it starts like almost taking over. Like it takes control and it's like, no, we can never talk about this. This is
Yeah.
like a
Let's
no.
not go there. Let's not go there. Yeah.
Exactly. And so it's crazy to actually be on the first person experience of that feeling of like talking about shame is one thing, but actually going through it and trying to release it is different. So
Yeah.
yeah, tell me about
Let's dive into that. Yeah. Cause you're right. I'm going to do a workshop here in my office this weekend. I'll have 10 guys who've all paid money to come down here to Puerto Vallarta, Mexico, come hang out at my house and go deep. And we will go into shame. And my first experience of working around shame, kind of got my first experience with shame. It's kind of, to me, kind of funny because I had a PhD in marriage and family therapy at 29. I met my second wife when I was about in my early 30s. And in spite of having a doctorate, I'd never really gone to any therapy. I'd never really done any self work. And my second wife was, kind of really into like self-improvement, kind of almost a junkie. And so she loved reading self-help books. On our honeymoon, she was reading Women Who Love Too Much. And I said, can you put that book away for a while? This is our honeymoon. And so I remember, we'd be in bed and she's reading like, reading John Bradshaw's Healing the Shame That Binds You. And she's going, oh, this is you. This is so much you. And I go, what? And she would read this thing about toxic shame. And, like I said, I already had a PhD in marriage and family therapy. I'm not stupid. I can pretty much grasp concepts pretty well, pretty easily, pretty quickly. And she's reading me about shame, and I'm going, I don't know that I even get it as a concept, as an intellectual concept, let alone as that's me, in an emotional way. And she's reading it, and I thought, that doesn't sound like me. I don't hate myself. You hate yourself. You criticize yourself all the time. I said, that sounds like you. That doesn't sound like me. So I had this really difficult time connecting with even the concept of shame, let alone I don't have shame. I think I'm a good guy. I think I'm a nice guy. Now, I could be highly critical and judgmental of other people, but I wasn't particularly judgmental of myself. Now, about 2 years into that marriage, I acted in some inappropriate ways. My wife found out down the road a little bit. She said, everybody thinks you're a nice guy, but you're not. I can't trust you. You're passive aggressive. You don't tell the truth, blah, blah, blah. So you need help. I'm going to leave you if you don't get help. Well, okay. I didn't want her to leave me. So, and she said, you're a sex addict. Well, we never have sex. How can I be a sex addict? And so I went to a 12-step group for sex addiction and quickly found out I wasn't a sex addict. I am an approval addict. I think if a woman approves of me, I'm thinking, well, who am I to tell her no to have sex, because she likes me. So I was more about the approval, not the actual sexual dynamic of it. But for the first time in my life, I grew up with fundamental Christianity. My father was critical and negative, so I was trying to avoid his criticism. I grew up during the angry feminism of the 60s. Every man's a rapist, and erection's a sign of aggression. I was trying to not be those bad men. I was trying to be the good guy. And so I get to this 12-step group, and it was all guys, and it was like my first men's group. And so I started just revealing things about me I'd never revealed before, things I thought, felt, done, hadn't done, but had the impulse to do. And I tell you what, this group met early, like 5, 6 a.m., about once a week. And I'd looked forward to getting up and going to this group because it felt so amazing to just tell these guys things I'd never told anybody. And I thought, wow, this, it actually feels good. I mean, it's scary at first. And then I got a therapist. And then I later joined a men's group built around sexual shame. I was in that for about 5 or 6 years. I was in that group when I wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy. And it just kind of became this theme of finding safe places to just reveal me and things that I don't want people to know about me. And so I talk about that in No More Mr. Nice Guy. And I really think that is the starting place, is that we got to find safe people. Now guys, especially nice guys, especially if we have shame, we want to do it ourselves. No, just give me a book to read. Just give me some homework. Just give me a video to watch. Give me an audio book. But the thing is, we didn't internalize this shame in social isolation. We're not going to release it in social isolation. And part of the releasing of shame is to actually tell people what you don't want people to know about you and have the opportunity of watching they don't like melt down or go off on you or, punish you. And maybe they even smile at you and say, I don't think badly of you, or actually, that sounds pretty normal, or actually, I do the same thing. Right. So that having safe people in our life to just reveal that to is so, it's just so releasing. And it's an ongoing process. I think a lot of times guys think, okay, I did it once, I'm done. It is amazing what is down in the darkness, what's down in the shadows, what keeps coming up. Because even you and I were talking just before we started recording about psychedelics, just a little brief conversation. You asked me if I'd done ayahuasca. And the last time that I did ayahuasca, actually, it was in the first series of times. On the final night, my intention was I wanted to get in touch with and release sexual shame. Now they say, kind of be careful what you ask mother for. That's what they refer to ayahuasca, plant medicine, because she'll give it to you in ways that, that you need to receive it. So I said my intention was to release sexual shame. Now, you can have many different experiences on plant medicine. It may be very dark. You may meet past abusers. It may be light and beautiful. I mean, I've had a lot of experiences, and all very positive for me. This one experience, there's a type of experience called a nada, and that's a Spanish word for nothing. And the nada experience on the plant medicine is where it's just like you go into a deep sleep and have no visions, no experience. Well, when I asked to release sexual shame, I drank the medicine. You're lying on a mattress. There's like 60 people around you. It's dark. They're doing all the ceremony. And I went into a deep sleep. I went into a nada, no vision, nothing. But I woke up and the back of my shorts were wet. And I thought, oh, am I sweating? I thought, well, the front of my shorts isn't wet. And I went in the bathroom, and you purge a lot when you're on ayahuasca. So often it's vomiting. For me, I go number 2 a lot. I shit a lot. And there's bathrooms nearby. So usually you don't shit in your shorts, but I did. Right. So I went, and luckily, that night, before I left my cabana to go to the ceremony, I just had this impulse, put an extra pair of shorts in my bag. Now, in hindsight, I wish mom, mother, grandmother, whatever, had told me put 2 extra pairs of shorts in. So I had this nada, changed my shorts, went back, drank some more, had another nada, deepness, and woke up. I'd done it again. I'd shit my shorts a second time. So I don't have a third pair. So I go in the bathroom again, clean the best can up, toilet paper, discard the underwears, left them in the garbage can. And then, went and got another, drink the ayahuasca, and the shaman said, have you had any visions? I said, no, not yet. And then, so a third time I wake up, I've shit my shorts, again, do the best to clean it up, go back. And I go up to the shaman again and said, have you had any visions? I said, no, but I've shit my shorts 3 times. And he goes, that's amazing. You're free. There's wildness in that. And he gave me this big hug. And I go, I guess I got what I wanted. There's nothing like shitting your shorts in a public place where you run out of pairs that you can change to. And I thought, that's not the way I thought I would ask to get my shame released. But then, and then this was the all-nighter. So I spent another 6 hours just kind of sitting in dirty shorts and just kind of like, life's good, and so it's interesting how shame is stored, how it gets released. So I don't think most people have to shit their shorts to go do their shame work. Find safe people and tell them the things you don't want them to know about you. And observe that if these are truly safe people, a coach, a therapist, a men's group, a 12-step group, a best friend, that they're going to have actually positive responses to you. Because, the thing is, I say no more Mr. Nice Guy. Nice guys are trying to be so good, so perfect, so average, right? Nothing standing, but I call us Teflon men. And, nothing sticks to Teflon, but nothing gets close to Teflon. And it's our rough edges that people connect with. The ways that we're outside the norm, the ways that we have idiosyncrasies, even irritating behaviors That's really what people connect to within us. And so by getting real, we can own all aspects of ourselves. We don't have to hide any of it. We can integrate all aspects of ourselves into what we look at and what we let people see. Now, what I learned about me, going back to the shame thing, that I realized that there are two types of nice guys where it comes to shame. One I call the I'm so good nice guy. The other I call the I'm so bad nice guy. I fit in the I'm so good nice guy category because what I did at an early age with my shame, I put it in this like airtight, sealed compartment way, way down deep. It's way, way, way back in my unconsciousness. But the fact that I've worked hard all my life to try to be a nice guy says there must have been some original moving thing that said, I'm not good, I'm bad. Now, whether I thought that, like I said, is a feeling more than a thought. My reaction to feeling I'm bad means I got to be good. I got to work hard to be good. I got to be what I think other people want me to be, hide anything. So the fact that I am a nice guy is an indicator I have shame, even if I can't find it or locate it. It's there. And I'm walking through life saying, I'm a nice guy. I'm one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. And then when my wife, second wife, is reading me these things about shame, I can't even grasp the concept of it. Okay. Now, guys will say, I read your book. I love the part about shame. You explained it well. So I think, great. I finally got to where I understood it. But I also came to see there's something called a nice guy called the I'm so bad nice guy. This is the nice guy who was probably not a nice guy in childhood. Maybe he acted out, maybe had ADHD and he was impulsive and got scolded and got in trouble and got kicked out of class and maybe started doing drugs and alcohol at an early age, maybe dropped out of school, maybe been to jail, maybe been an addict, but then maybe, got in the military or, got married or had a kid or just grew up and thought, I can't keep doing this. And they're trying to be a nice guy, doing all the things that I'm so good nice guy would do, but it's like more of a conscious effort. And their shame is right here. It's right up behind their eyeballs. And they know it's only a matter of time. If they let anybody get close to them, everybody else is going to find out how fucked up they really are because they're still carrying the shame of all the fucked up things they believe they did as a kid. So we have the I'm so good nice guy whose shame is way buried down. I'm so bad nice guy who's shame here. Now you put these two guys in a group together. Now I'm so bad nice guy. Well, he'll be the first one to share his shame because it's right up there. It takes the I'm so good nice guy a little bit longer because we don't even know it's there, right? We don't even know it's there until, somebody else has shared something and then we go, oh, maybe I'll share that too. And then we have a shame attack. And then we go, oh, that is what that is. I don't want people to know that about me. I've been looking at porn for the last 25 years, but, I hide that. I don't want anybody to know it. But now I'm in a group of safe men. Some other guy shared about his porn addiction. I share mine. And now all of a sudden my body's trembling and I'm terrified I'm going to die. That's shame, right? And again, that's why we need the safe place. And usually it's best in a group where other people are sharing their shame as well. And it can be inspiring, motivating, empowering to take that same risk ourselves. So you're right. It can be really scary and really challenging. But once you start that process, it's so liberating. It really does feel good. And I almost get to where you want to go around and start telling everybody. Now, you need to use a little bit of judiciousness, Keep this with safe people. Might not include your mom. At first, it might not include your partner. Because those people, they kind of have an investment in seeing us in a certain way and maybe even wanting us to stay exactly how we are. Because if you start releasing shame, it starts liberating you from the chains that have bound you and held you all your life, which means you won't become a different person, but you may start showing up in the world in a very different way. And that can scare people who've known you for a while. They don't know where that might lead. It's called second order change. It's unknown. It's unpredictable. And that tends to be frightening to us.
Yeah, I think there is also a importance in the safe aspect. Whereas if you are sharing it with people who, maybe unintentionally are not going to receive it safely for you, before the time when you've processed it, if you're still in that stage of releasing it, I don't know. I could see where it could go wrong, and maybe you end up pushing it even deeper. And
it could. You're right. And there's kind of a red pill meme out there about not being vulnerable to women. Don't let them see. And I don't buy into that. Now, with that said, I don't think we need to, like, say, for example, make a woman we're dating, even our partner. We don't need to make them our therapist, our emotional tampon. And I'm a big advocate of go to those safe people to do the shame work. And I'll give you an example. When early on, in my own personal recovery, when I was in the 12-step group and I had a therapist, and like I said, this was just like me being months into beginning to do this work. I had a dark sexual impulse. I didn't act on it, but it scared me. I thought, wow, I can't believe I would even think that was a good thing to do. And prior to me beginning to do my work, I don't know if that would have even bubbled up to the surface, or if it had, I probably would have blocked it out, or heaven forbid, I might have even acted on it and thought it was a good idea, right? But the fact that now I was in a place where I was beginning to be real and open and transparent, which will cause stuff to start bubbling up that you maybe didn't even know was down there, right? So I had this dark impulse. And so I go to my 12-step group. Like I said, it's like, 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And I tell the guys, and it was scary because, I felt a lot of shame about that impulse. And I shared it with the guys. And, the strongest reaction you get is, thanks for sharing, Robert. And they're all probably going, why is he even here? They've been into jail for like picking up hookers or molesting their daughters, stuff like that. But for me, it was dark and it was scary. And so I share it, and they go, thanks for sharing. Well, that's it. Nothing more. So I went and met with my therapist right after that. I drove from there to her office, and it was an older woman. I've been working with her for maybe just 2 or 3 months. And okay, I'm going to tell her as well. So I tell her the impulse, and she just looks at me with this kind face and says, well, let's explore that and see what that's about. Let's see what that story is all about. I'm going, that's it? She doesn't like call me names or get disgusted or call the police on me. And we explore it together, right? Of where that impulse probably came from, in my, sexual development as a child. And so I'm driving back home, about an hour drive back to my house. And my now ex-wife, my second wife, who kind of got the ball rolling for me, who I was married to, and I wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy. I used to say her middle name ought to be Overreact, because that's what she did in every situation. And she never overreacted to me saying her middle name ought to be Overreact, because she knew that she did, right? So she could own that. So I'm driving home thinking, okay, to put it in context, I'm a baseball fan, so I think I'm batting 1,000. I'm 2 for 2. I've shared this with 2 groups, one individual, one group of people, and so far no bad reaction. And so I go, okay, even if I share it with my wife and, she has a reaction to it, I'm still batting 666, which that's amazing, right? So I drive home, I get home, and I said, I got to tell you something. So I take her back to the bedroom. We sit down on the bed, and I said, I need to tell you what I'm about to tell you. I've already talked to my 12-step group about it. I've already talked to my therapist about it, but I need to tell you. So I'd already released the bulk of the shame about this thing. And I'm still afraid to tell her, still anxious, but I thought, okay, again, I'm batting 1,000. So I told her that I've already told the groups. I told her the dark impulse, and she looks at me, she says, that kind of scares me. It doesn't surprise me. I'm glad you talked about it with your group and your therapist. And she never mentioned it again, ever. So this woman who overreacted to everything, when I actually had already done the shit. Now, if I had told her about it first, before I'd actually done any shame release around it, and I had an investment in her still approving of me and not divorcing me or whatever, she probably would have had a reaction, because she would have been picking up on my anxiety and my shame. I'd already released a big chunk of that, and I could just give her the details without it being wrapped in the shame. And like I said, she heard it, I think had empathy and, some fear, but I don't think it surprised her deeply. And again, she never brought it up again. She never held it over me, never, brought it up in an argument and beat me up with it. So that was the power of having those safe people to release the shame with. And then when you give this to a partner or family members, it's a cleaner version. It doesn't have all the residue of shame attached to it. And then those people can tend to hear it better. And they're not going to be reacting to our shame. Because one thing about shame, it can elicit in other people an impulse to shame the person who's having shame. That's why, again, find the safe people to do this with. And again, therapist, coach, men's group, 12-step group or my highest recommendations.
Yeah. So I'd love to talk a little bit about that approval seeking behavior. Like you mentioned with your wife at the time, when you brought this up to her, you weren't really seeking approval. And I've had this both ways with women where I've said almost the exact same thing, but one of the times I was awaiting a certain response and I was
Oh
like
yeah.
trying to hope for that and work that in. And then other times where I was just like, this is what it is. I have to tell you this. And the reaction is almost always different. Like it's very much, though when the approval seeking is there, I don't get the reaction I want. And
Yeah.
then the paradoxical thing is when I'm not approval seeking, I tend to get that approval.
Let's break that down.
Yeah.
Do you have another part to add to that?
No, I want to hear about how to get into that not approval seeking state more often.
Okay. So let me make a note because I'm going to talk about two things. I want to make sure I come back to both. So approval seeking and also the reactions that people have.
Mhm.
Okay. So kind of going back to even your first question at the start of this of why do not all nice guys change even when they have information of how like, okay, I tell somebody, all right, go do your shame work, go find safe people. Well, some guys choose to do that, some don't. And it's kind of like, some people, say an alcoholic, maybe they hit their bottom and maybe some people, maybe even go to 12-step program, go to Alcoholics Anonymous. And maybe some people choose to quit drinking and some don't. Some choose to get a sponsor, some don't. Some choose to work the 12 steps and some don't. And they have a mantra in 12 steps to say it works. It works if you work it and you're worth it. So the thing is, all of this stuff, it does work if you work it. And later on, probably we'll get a chance to talk about how I've actually pondered that very question that you asked me before. How come I'll do like a workshop or a course, and part of the people take the material and they do it and they have success, and the other people don't. Well, and that I've always wondered about that stuff myself. So we can come back to that. But let's go to the approval seeking. Somebody asked me a while back on an interview, why is nice guy syndrome so sticky? And especially in terms of this seeking approval, and especially in nice guys seeking the approval of women. And I in that moment, thought about it. Well, it makes sense that a man would seek the approval of women. We come into this world, like we've been talking about, totally vulnerable, totally needy, totally dependent, and it's essential that our caregivers see our needs and meet our needs in timely, judicious, and consistent ways. That's the only way we survive and the only ways that we internalize a belief system that I'm valuable and this world's a safe place and I'll get my needs met. But that doesn't usually happen very consistently, even with good parents. There's no perfect parents. But a boy or any child, but let's say a boy born in this world, his first caregiver is going to be female. It's going to be his mother, typically. Then there might be, other females tending to him, might be caregivers, might be babysitters, might be nannies, au pair. Go to elementary school, it's primary female teachers. So boys spend the first chunk of their lives learning how to please women, how to please the feminine. Now, unfortunately, the feminine is a moving target. It's the weather. It can change from moment to moment. So you think you got it right this time, the next time, how come that didn't work? It worked last time, right? The masculine is pretty structured and pretty solid. It doesn't move. You know when you've accomplished in the masculine world. Feminine world, moving target. So boys grow up trying to figure out how to please the feminine because we have to. Our survival depends on these females, valuing us and liking us and wanting to meet our needs because we can't get them met on our own. Now, then, to interject, then traditionally, when a boy began to mature, began to, reach puberty, pre-adolescence, the men took the boys out and out with the men. Now, in agrarian farming communities, just going back 100 years or so, that meant the boy, as soon as he could help dad out on the farm, milking the cows, gathering the eggs, moving rocks, harvesting, hunting, whatever, the boy was out with grandpa, with dad, with uncles, so he was initiated into the world of the masculine, taken out of the world of the feminine. Go back 10,000 years to our tribal times. Every tribe worldwide that's been studied by anthropologists all have initiation rites where the men of the tribe take the boys at a certain age and put them in probably what feels like a life-threatening situation that they have to go through with the help of the men. Maybe it's a vision quest, maybe it's a fast, maybe they put the hooks in their chest and they stare at the sun for 3 days. Maybe they strap them to an ant hill, and it can be very. I remember when I was a little kid, I saw National Geographic in Africa. They go up in a tree, tie a vine around their ankle, and they had to jump head first out of the tree. That's before bungee jumping, where people actually did that on purpose, right? And I'm sure that vine didn't have the stretch that a bungee cord did. So, and it's scary. And that's what masculine initiation is facing our fear of death and learning to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Now, the problem is nowadays, we don't have that initiation. So boys never leave the nursery, never leave that safe, warm cocoon of seeking female approval and just getting our needs met by having them pushed to us, especially now, millennials, Generation Z. You've grown up, everything is pushed to you. Your entertainment is pushed to you. Your information is pushed to you. Your porn is pushed to you. The video games are pushed to you. Everything. There's no real challenge, right? And so we grow up, and so we're still seeking, this approval and this validation of the feminine because we've never been introduced into that world of masculine that is internally validating. Feminine is externally validated. It's approval. And children are feminine. Little boys are feminine until they reach puberty and get initiated into the masculine world. So the piece that's missing for so many men is we've never had wise men initiate us into the world of the masculine, where you know where the markers are of you've accomplished, you've success, you know when you've hit a home run, you know when you've scored a basket, you know when you've scored a touchdown, you know where you got the pay raise, you know when you got the promotion, you know what's required of you to reach that level. That's the very masculine world. And if we've never gotten initiated into that world and then gotten comfortable and gotten our own sense of mastery, we keep going over here trying to get that approval over here, typically from the feminine. Now, here's the problem that we run into with that, is that, again, that feminine approval is a moving target. One day they like what you did. They like the joke you told. The next day you tell the same joke or a different joke. And now that you get the cold shoulder, or they're mad at you, they withdraw, whatever. Whether this was with mommy, whether it's with a girl we met, at 13. When I was dating in my 40s, I met women said, Robert, you're the most amazing man I've ever met. I'm so glad I met you. I'm so glad you're in my life. And then they ghost me. I never hear from them again. Or they say, I'm going to take a break from dating, or I'm going to give my ex another chance. And I'm going, what just happened? That's the moving target of the feminine. You thought you'd hit it, and then it moved, right? So now here's the problem then when we go seeking the approval of women as adults. One of my No More Mr. Nice Guy certified coaches, Wally Wallace, he's written a book. I love this book. It's called Sipping Fear, Pissing Confidence. And it's a book written about addiction, but it really covers everything about men and living a successful life. It's a powerful book. I get him on your show. You'd love it. He's got a platform called Advisor to Men. He calls himself the Advisor to Men, Wally Wallace. So I'm listening to his book on audio, and this guy is probably my only certified coach. I've got over 150 that have done certification with me. Probably my only No More Mr. Nice Guy certified coach who's been shot and been to prison and used to be a drug dealer. So, the guy's been through it, and so he's got that edge to him, but he's also just the most loving, compassionate guy you're ever going to meet. And he's really, really scary smart. So anyway, in his book, I was driving one time from California up to Washington State, and I'm driving listening to the audiobook, and he says something in there that I had to keep like hitting my stereo to make it replay. And finally, I just pulled off the road because I wanted to just let it sink in. And the line in there, it says, a man does not mature until he quits seeking the approval of a woman. I thought, holy fuck, that's what I've been teaching men, but he's just said it so clearly. If we're still seeking the approval of women, we've not been initiated into the masculine. We're not in that masculine world, performing here and letting the feminine come to us. We're seeking it. We're trying to get its approval. We're trying to get them to accept us. We've made the feminine the decider instead of us being the decider. We've made the feminine the alpha and us the beta. And in a sense, we're still relating to the feminine like a little boy to his mommy. And I tell you what, if you go to a woman seeking her approval as a little boy seeks his mommy's approval, and little boys do crazy things to get their mom's approval. They'll come running into the room naked, shaking their pee-pee, kind of like, mommy, approve of me, approve of me. They'll just do all kinds of things trying to get mommy's approval. They'll try to be good. They'll do nice things. They'll bring her a little flower, all to get mommy's approval. Now, if we're still doing that, at 19, at 25, at 35, at 65, if we're still doing that, they're going to see us like the little boy running into the room naked, shaking his pee-pee, like, approve of me, approve of me. And they may love us, and they may even see humor in it, but they're not going to be turned on by it. And they're not going to give us the response we're hoping for because they can't. They don't want to be our mommies. They don't want the man in their life to be dependent on the approval of a woman. And they will take it to the next step. They know that if we are so in need of female approval that we're being a little boy seeking their approval, their mind also goes, what other women is he seeking the approval of? What other women will he not say no to? What other women will he be, trying to get his bucket filled by? And that's disgusting to them. They don't want anything. They don't want to be our mommies. So until we quit seeking the approval of women, we don't mature as men. And a good woman's going to want a mature man. She's going to want a man that she can be the storm. She can like him one minute, ghost him the next, be angry the next, call him names the next, and where it's just like it doesn't faze him. She wants that rock in the storm. My second wife, who I said was overreact to everything, she used to tell me, I'm your Bermuda Triangle. She was. And you're my Rock of Gibraltar. She would tell me that. She goes, she knew she was this. And she appreciated when I was this. Now, at times, when I wasn't, when I'd like, oh, I got to solve your problems. I got to get you over being mad. I got to, she'd go, listen, I'm just a little girl making noise. And when you get all like, flustered, like, oh, I'm in trouble, she goes, it doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't turn me on. And she would say, listen, if I don't know you can stand up to me, how will I ever know you can stand up for me? They want the man, not the boy. So that's where we really do have to find the masculine initiation. We really do have to learn how to get comfortable being uncomfortable and learn to get ourselves internally validated through masterful action in the world of the masculine, which does attract the feminine and turn it on immensely, versus, oh, I will try to impress you by being smart or being funny or bringing you a flower or giving you a treat or making you dinner or being good in bed or making you come. Then you'll like me and be impressed with me and want to keep. Again, that's making them the alpha, making them the deciders, giving them all the power. They don't want it. They don't want it. They want you to not need their approval and validation. Then they're going to give it to you.
Let's talk about boundaries. So
That's a nice balance. Let's go to boundaries.
Yeah, I feel like I sensed some of that, like this idea of like you talk about this in the book as well, about women will test your boundaries.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's like you can lay something down, but that doesn't mean like they're still going to check that it's a real boundary. I had this experience somewhat recently. So I'm pretty impulsive when it comes to certain things. One of them is like eating. So if there's
Okay.
junk food around me,
But you're in good shape, right? You've learned to pay attention to that, right?
Yes. So the reason I'm in good shape is because I've learned to just keep it away from me, right?
Yeah. Don't keep it
Now,
in the house. Yeah.
my girlfriend she loves fast food. That's like her thing. And so at one point I had to draw that boundary. I said, look, like I can't have that around me, because when you're eating it, it makes me eat it, and I don't want to do that. Anyways, within like a week, I noticed she kind of tested it, where she either brought it up, oh, I'm going to get food, something like that. And I didn't stand my ground.
Yeah.
So
you failed.
yes, I failed. It felt like it took all of my energy to lay down the boundary, and then I just wanted to be done with it. I wanted to be like, okay, that's there. Now she knows.
Of course you did. Yeah. All right. Boundaries. I love the subject of boundaries. I was in my mid-30s in my second marriage, already with a PhD in marriage and family therapy before I ever heard of boundaries. Excuse me. And the way I heard about them is I'd started working with a new therapist. And our very first session, she got a string out and laid it on the ground and talked to me about boundaries and did this little practice with me where I got on one side and she got on the other, and she crossed and came into my boundary. And I don't know if she did that with every client in their first session, or if she thought, this guy needs the boundary lesson. So I'd never heard of boundaries before. And there's good reason. Most adults haven't. Going back to things we've been talking about. When we're children, we're little, we're dependent, we're needy, we're small, we're not powerful. The big people can do whatever they want to the little people. And, so we just grow up where, mom and dad, they can yell at you, they can spank you, they can hit you, they can ground you, they can put you in the corner, they can do whatever they want. Your older siblings, they can do whatever they want. The big kids in the neighborhood, they can do whatever they want. The teachers can do whatever they want. The priests can do whatever they want. The police can do whatever. Everybody's bigger, more powerful. So every human being grows up not knowing, oh, I can say, no, stop. I don't like that. Or I'm going to remove myself now. Or if you do that again, we're done. We don't learn that because no one teaches us that. And so we grow up to be adults with little kids inside of us thinking, we have to go along to get along, or we just think we got to tolerate it, or maybe we get combative about it, but we don't know how to set conscious boundaries that actually invite people to higher consciousness. And we think as we learn about boundaries, they're about pushing people away, and because some people treat them like we're pushing them away. The truth is, boundaries allow us to let people get close to us. Because if we don't have personal boundaries, we either do have to just build walls between us and people, withdraw completely from people, or just let people do to us whatever they do and we just suffer through it. So those aren't good options. Boundaries let us decide who comes into our space, what they get to do while they're in there. Can they bring Carl's Jr.'s or Big Macs into our space? How long they get to stay in our space, when it's time for them to leave our space. We get to decide that. That's that adult decider again. That's maturity. Okay. So boundaries let people get close to us. Now, when I was, working as a marriage therapist years ago in private practice, I would, couples would come to me and I would teach them about boundaries. I usually start with the guy. And especially if he's a nice guy, and I do the string on the ground thing, and I teach him about saying no and stop and having a boundary. And I can't tell you how many times I'm teaching the guy about boundaries, and the woman would applaud, and the guy looks over and goes, you mean you want me to stand up to you, dear? And she goes, yeah, I don't want to be married to a little boy I can walk all over. And she goes, yeah, and like my ex used to say, if you can't stand up to me, how can I know you'll ever stand up for me? They're security-seeking creatures. They've been wired to expect their man to provide and protect. Now, can they provide and protect for themselves in most cases? Yeah, but they still feel vulnerable. Ask any woman if she feels safe walking in her neighborhood alone, let alone at night, even in the daytime, right? So they feel vulnerable, and they're going to feel safer if they know we're boundaried. Okay. So I tell the guy, as she's applauding, saying, of course, I want you to stand up to me. I say, she's telling you the truth. She does want you to stand up to her. But I said, the first time you set a boundary with her, she's going to try to push through it. And you're going to go, dear, I thought you said you wanted me to set boundaries. And she's going to say, I do, just not this one. I want my way on this one. But I said, she's got to test your boundaries to know if she can trust them. She just has to. In kind of manosphere talk, the dating world talk, there's something called shit tests. And, guys hate shit tests, because we think they're like shitty things to do. But I always tell guys, a shit test is not shitty behavior. A shit test is a test of, do you have your shit together? Right? That's what the woman's wanting to trust. And a woman won't shit test a man that she doesn't have some degree of interest in. I mean, they won't give us the time of day if they don't care. But if they care, they got a shit test. And so a couple examples that I use. If we are their emotional security system, if that's wired into them by Mother Nature and evolution through 1.5 million years, which I believe it is, they're going to look to us for a sense of security. Now, to test your security system, you do have to test it. I give an example. I bought a BMW after I got divorced 20-something years ago. And I lived in a neighborhood, a little bit of a rough neighborhood, and I parked the car out on the street. And after a week or so, I thought, I need to get an alarm system for that car. So I took it back to the dealer and they put an alarm in it. And I drove it home, parked it on the street in front of my apartment building. And I thought, cool, I got an alarm. I got a little blue blinking light on the dash. And I go, I don't know if it works. So I thought, I got to find out, because I don't know if it works. I don't know if I can trust my security system. So, okay. So I rocked the car and it went beep, beep, beep. I'm happy. My security system worked. So, a week or two later, nothing's happened. No alarms have gone off. And I thought, I haven't heard the alarm for a week or two. Wonder if it still works. I don't know. And if I don't know, I don't have security. So I go out, unlock it, climb inside, arm it, and then I wave my arms around to test the motion detector. Beep, 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 beep. I'm happy. My alarm system worked. So I had to test it. I had to know. Okay. So think about this. A woman, this could be a woman you're just talking to, first time you ever met her. She may start testing. I've had that happen. First date. I've had women test me on first dates often. Long-term relationship. They got to test you if we are their security system, emotional security system. So think that you are their castle and they are the damsel inside the castle. The castle's got its walls, it's got the moat, it's got, all the whatever the protections are in a castle. Outside the castle is the marauding horde. They're raping, they're pillaging, they're setting all on fire, they're taking the women and, carrying them off and then using and abusing them. She knows that's out there. You're the only thing standing between her and the marauding horde. So she knows they're coming. She can hear them. She can smell the flames burning. She hears the noise. She hears the yelling and the screaming. She's got to know, can I trust my castle, my security system? She's going to get a broomstick. She's going to go around poking joists, poking window joints, poking door jambs, poking the mortar in between the bricks. She's poking, looking for any gaps, any vulnerability. She has to know where her vulnerabilities are, where they could get through. And that's what she's doing with us. She's poking until she finds the vulnerabilities, the soft spots, the little boy reactions, the can't depend and can't trust him, can't stand up to her responses. And as soon as she hits one, she's got to poke it again and again. And if it keeps getting that, I can't trust that response, she'll either keep poking it till it finally, it gets a solid response, or she'll probably just turn around and walk away and either go protect herself or go find another security system. Okay. That's why if they are our Bermuda Triangle, we got to be their Rock of Gibraltar. That's why we got to be that alarm in the BMW. We got to be. Now, that doesn't mean we got to be perfect. Women get that. They don't expect perfection, but they do expect some degree of self-awareness that if they hit a soft, vulnerable spot, we can, even if we have a reaction the first time around, the second time they go, that's a soft spot. I need to work on that one. And hopefully they see us go out and start working. on that soft spot. Maybe we go get our tribe of men and we start, working on learning how to ground ourselves and soothe ourselves and get more honest and more transparent and just hold on to ourselves when we feel challenged. Set the boundaries, right? We learn those skill sets and they're going to feel safer. The stronger we are, the more consistent we are, the more powerful we are, the more boundaried we are, the safer they're going to feel. Now they can open. Now then they can submit. I get that's an evil word, but they want to. They want to open and submit to our strength. That doesn't submit like, okay, you're the boss, you're in charge. It submits so they can, experience the bliss of being penetrated into the depths of feminine bliss by our presence, our consciousness, everything about us. They want to relax and open into our strength, but they got to test our strength first before they can relax and open into it. They're in their masculine all day long. They're in charge of everything all day long. They want to come home to us and just breathe and relax. Now, they won't do it on their own. They may test us a time or two when they walk in the door. I had one girlfriend. I met her. She told me she was at Nordstrom. And we used to meet her at a Ruth's Chris restaurant in the mall where she worked. And they had a good happy hour. So she'd get off work at 5:00. I'd already be in the bar. They had a good hamburger and a good glass of wine, baseball on the TV. She liked baseball too. She'd come in and she'd be, you don't know about my day. My manager this, my customer's this, all right, my coworker's this. I'd take my phone out, set it on the bar, set a timer for 5 minutes. I say, you got my undivided attention for 5 minutes. Tell me about your shitty day. Then we're going to be done. We're going to have a glass of wine. We're going to have a great burger. We're going to watch a baseball game. She couldn't even go 5 minutes because she didn't want to. She wanted to be done. I created the container. I'd listen to her, wouldn't fix it, but she could get it all out because she would rather be having fun and relax into a good glass of wine, a good cheeseburger, and a good baseball game. Right? She didn't want to be in a bad mood all night. But I had to create that container in order to lead her to where she wanted to just open and relax. Right? I couldn't just wait for that to happen on its own. She could have gone all night if I didn't, put it in the container. So that was a loving thing for me to do. Kind of going back to, if you can't stand up to me, how can you stand up for me? So we've got to develop those strengths and skill sets. And guess what? The feminine is going to be our best teacher. The feminine is going to be the storm. It's going to be the earthquake. It's going to be the thunder and lightning. It's going to be the Bermuda Triangle. It's our testing ground. It's our masculine initiation. It's where we do get to learn to be strong and grounded and that rock in the hurricane.
Amazing. So it's set up boundaries and then hold them up
and plan on them getting tested in all kinds of creative ways. Oh, they get creative because they have to. Just like one time I rocked the car. Next time, I waved my hands. You got to test it in different ways. Come at it from different angles.
Right. And then be ready to fail. Be ready to let them fall down sometimes. But then, like you said, go work on it.
We're going to fail. Yeah. Have you ever gone to a car dealer to buy a car? Used car, new car. I don't know if you have. Most people, us guys, okay, I know what car I want. I'm going to do all the research on it. I'm going to know all the features. I'm going to know what the blue book is. I'm going to know what their, what price they paid for it, what they got it for, what their markups is, how they work. I'm going to go on that car lot and I'm going to get the good deal. Now, what we don't realize is we're on their home turf. We're dealing with professionals. They do this day in and day out. They have systems for manipulating you, doing this, oh, let me go talk to my manager. My manager won't let me do that, but we can't, they, so you may buy the car that you wanted, but I promise you're not going to go steal it from them. Why? They're the pros. You're the amateur. This is true dealing with women. They're the pros at this stuff. They're the pros at testing the castle. They're the pros at testing the security system. We're amateurs at being the security system. So they're the best teachers. They really are. So how can we welcome that instead of, oh, fucking shit test, another shit. Okay, got a shit test for me, baby? Bring it. Oh, that's all you got? That's all you got for me? That is actually, I dated a woman one time. We dated for about 3 months and I broke up with her. She was too much of a nice girl, actually. There wasn't enough challenge there. But we stayed friends. And so we continued to see each other. Every now and then, we get together and fuck. But we stayed friends. And she rarely got angry at me. But when she did, I'd say, okay, come here, get angry at me. And so after we'd broken up, one time she got kind of perturbed at me at something. And I said, all right, give it to me. She goes, stop that. You know how that turns me on when you do that. I go, actually, I didn't know that turned you on, but okay, tell me what you're angry about. I'll listen. So yeah, even that, give it to me, it's a turn on. It's a turn on. They go, okay, that's the guy I want to be with. He welcomes the storm instead of going, why is it raining again? They love it. They love it. Yeah, but they got to keep up in the game as well. They'll bring the bigger storm next time. When you're least expecting it, when everything's going really well, they'll pull a good one.
It's the perfect time to strike.
Oh yeah, perfect time.
What motivates you to help nice guys? Like what made you kind of set out on this life course?
Oh, I guess it's just what I do. I guess I've always been a teacher, always been a communicator. I learned public speaking and debate in high school, and I just really enjoyed it. I love communicating. I love winning, of course, but to win, you got to communicate. People got to get it, and I like it. I like that when people get something. And then I was a minister for 8 years, so same thing. I love communicating truth and people getting it and responding to it. And as a therapist, I love it when the light bulb goes on and people get it. As a coach, in my workshops and in my classes, I just love it when people can connect information to action and apply it and see results from it. That's my biggest turn on. I really love it. And so for whatever reason, I think my gift is that I can take fairly complex concepts, subjects, and maybe even combine them, maybe even kind of twist them a little bit and present them in ways that are pretty easy for people to understand and perhaps more importantly, easy to apply. So I think that's just a gift I have. Maybe I've just been doing it long enough. It just, whether I'm writing or speaking, I seem to be able to do that. And so I get joy in it. I get joy when I can present a concept. I mean, we've now spent about an hour and a half talking about concepts. And hopefully I've explained them in ways that people are getting it. They're nodding. They see they're in their own life and they're seeing, oh, I see why when I do that, it doesn't work. And maybe I can try that and see if that works better for me. I love that. So then that's why I like doing interviews. I have a good time doing these because I get to teach and I get to share concepts. And it's usually just to an audience of one, but I know other people are going to watch that and get something out of it. So I've primarily just worked with men for the last 20 plus years. Like I spent 25 years as a marriage and family therapist, but as I wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy, started leading groups for men. I just love to work with men. I love that I can take the big stick out with men and just hit them upside the head and say, what the fuck were you thinking? Or, what made you think that was a good idea? Or you get that doesn't work well, right? You're kind of the Dr. Phil. How's that working for you so far? I love with men, I can do that. Women, it takes more finesse. You really usually can't bring the big, they got to really trust you. Now, I can build that trust and I've done it. But like I said, men will show up here in my office Friday night to start this workshop, already primed to get out of their comfort zone. And they will start revealing things about themselves Friday night to a group of strangers that maybe they've never told anybody. And to me, that's profound. That's amazing that can happen. And, we've got this cultural meme. Oh, men just aren't in touch with their feelings. Men don't express their feelings. Men aren't emotional. Men aren't this. Bullshit. You put men in a safe environment. Yeah, we've got every feeling in the world. And once we trust the people around us are not going to respond negatively to those emotions and feeling states, we experience a depth of joy to just be able to open up like I did in that 12-step group. It felt good. And so you give men the opportunity in a safe place and just a little bit of a framework for how to go about this. Just the progress I see is amazing, which, let me bring it back to your first question. why don't all men apply this? Why don't all men see the progress? When I started teaching dating stuff, I was a terrible dater my entire adult life, just terrible. I won't go into details, a whole nother podcast. But when I got out into the dating world in my 40s and 50s, I listened to a lot of materials, read The Game by Neil Strauss, listened to David D'Angelo stuff, and I got good. I became a real social animal, and I was going on a lot of dates and getting laid a lot. And my clients were saying, Robert, teach us. What are you doing? Well, I'm not a dating coach. I'm not a dating guru. But so I had to start thinking about, well, what am I doing that works? So that's what I tend to do. What works? I conceptualize it, and then I teach it in practical ways. So I taught a workshop and then another, and developed a class for dating. And one thing I noticed is that, a number of the guys would get back to me after a workshop or course and say, Robert, thanks, this is working. I've gone on so many dates, and, I've had sex, I got a girlfriend, good stuff. And then other guys, I check in with them and I go, how's it going? I haven't really had any success. And that I was curious about that. They have the same tools, they have the same information, but not having success. And really what I've discovered, what it really came down to, is they typically were not applying the information that I was sharing. Or if they did it once. Maybe it didn't turn out perfectly. They retreated and never tried again. And so I was curious, what made that difference? So going back to what I believe is the foundation of nice guy syndrome is shame and anxiety. When I wrote No More Mr. Nice Guy, I'd really been focusing on shame. By the time the book was published, I'd also really started working a lot around anxiety with nice guys and teaching them how to soothe themselves and face their fears and overcome their fears. So I'm going to guess that typically, if a man has all the tools and information, and one thing I know about us guys, we do love information. I have to tell guys frequently, all right, no more books, no more self-help books, whether it's, self-help, marketing, coaching books, business books, enough. You have enough information to apply to your life. You have enough information to take action. Or no more audiobooks, no more YouTube, no more workshops. Go practice what you've learned, because we want to just keep learning. That's easier than applying what we've learned. So, you can take all the workshops, the 10Xing your business, how to be the profitable coach, how to do the Alex Hormozy stuff. How you can do all, you can keep soaking in information, but until you apply it, nothing in your life's going to change. So what gets in the way of applying it? Now, it could be a lot of things, self-limiting beliefs, lack of skills, lack of support. I'm not a big fan of self-discipline, or even willpower, because if it worked, it would work. But I am a big fan of support and accountability, where we don't try to do this stuff alone. I think that's the most powerful tool that we can have, is have other people having our back, that we're sharing. How are we doing? That's the only way I can get in shape and stay in shape. I can't do it by myself. I don't have enough willpower or discipline to do it. I can cave to the occasional hamburger as well, but I've gotten pretty good. My family does eat the fast food as well. No, I'm good. I'm good.
You're a stronger man than me.
I've got my protein shakes that I like. I guess I've never been a real fast food junkie, but I got my other, soft spots. Believe me, sweets are really the thing for me. So we bought a Costco pumpkin pie the other day. I've been eating pumpkin pie. So I've got my soft spots. So if willpower and discipline were enough, I would just look at it in the fridge and go, I don't need it. But if I have accountability, then I have to tell somebody, yeah, I ate a piece of pumpkin pie. I'll do it without shame, but I probably won't eat more than one piece. It'll stop right there. Mm-hmm. So the things that I think stop nice guys the most from truly applying the information they've got is probably shame and anxiety, because that's the two foundations. Either we haven't found the safe people and began revealing ourselves. I'll do that. No, do it. Like what Yoda said, there is no try, only do it. And or our anxiety is still driving the bus. And that can be real challenging, because I know even after working on my nice guy stuff for 30 years, my anxiety can still come up and be pretty strong. And, I've learned to notice it. I've learned to soothe it. I've learned to ground myself. I've learned to take action even while feeling anxious. But that can be pretty debilitating. So it's usually shame or anxiety. And often the biggest anxiety is fear of the unknown. We don't know what's on the other side of making these changes or doing something different. We don't know how people are going to react. We don't know if we're going to be alone or if we're going to get rejected or look foolish. We don't know what's out there. And that's again why it helps to have a tribe, to have a support system of other people who maybe are further ahead than us, who know the way, who've been there, or who are on the same journey, and we're just going to support each other through it as we go into the unknown. So again, I think it's that support system where we can release shame, get support for soothing our anxiety, and we don't try to do it alone. I think those are just such key pieces of any behavior change, whether it's breaking out of eating fast food or learning to set boundaries or talking to pretty women that scare you. I think the formula probably works the same for all of those things.
What is something that you are currently struggling with?
What do I currently struggle with? Well, let's see which one. Um, there's nothing just jumping out right now but there are some pieces I'm working on. One was in my relationship with my partner when she would like accuse me of things I haven't done or get that look because she's ruminating that she thinks I'm cheating on her or I've got a girlfriend and withdraws, and that triggers my anxiety that I'm bad. I've got to prove to her I'm not, I'm good. That used to really trigger a lot of anxiety. I've been working on that piece for probably 6, 7 years. We're coming up on our 8th anniversary. I've gotten pretty good. More of that rock in the storm. But I noticed even just this morning, my wife had surgery, had hernia surgery on Thursday. So, she's not been feeling real well. And her closest sibling, her closest brother died 2.5 weeks ago. So double whammy. So she's struggling with emotional stuff. And I kind of this morning noticed she kind of had that look. I tried to give her a hug. I give her a kiss on the cheek, and she's got kind of that rigidness and look. And I go, "You got that look like you're not happy to see me." No. I go, "Yeah, you do." I said, "I know it." And then I just soothed myself, gave her a hug, told her how much I love her, went and used the bathroom, took the dog for a walk. But it used to be I'd get reactive. I'd try to drag it out of her and try to get her to talk about it. And try. So at least I noticed it, but it didn't take me over. So that's what I've gotten better at, is noticing my triggers, feeling them, having tools to use them, and doing something different. Another piece I've been working on, going back to the food thing, is staying in the kind of shape that I want to be in. I have the best of intentions. I have a gym in my house. My wife's a gym rat. She'll be happy working out 2 hours a day. And I know I should. And I'm 68, and I want to keep doing what I do because I get joy in it. I want to preserve my brain. I don't want a heart attack. My dad died of a stroke. My mother had a stroke 4 or 5 years ago. My brother died of diabetes. My sister died of a heart attack. Um, you know, Genetically, I'm pretty sound, but I don't want any lifestyle things to, work against me. So I hired a nutrition coach about 6 months ago. I'm as lean as I was in my 30s, so that feels good. But again, I needed a coach. I needed support. I have support systems to help me in my ongoing fitness routines. So that's a piece I've been working on. But right now it feels like doing good, doing good. But I also know there's this tendency I have, and I think other nice guys do, right when things get kind of good, oh yeah, yeah, it's working. I got it. I'm nailed. Something either slips in, sneaks up, or something big hits us, and we're like 180 degrees back off the rails again. I've seen that happen to myself. When I've been in the best shape of my life, something happens, knocks me off path. I quit doing the things that we're doing that work. Um, but the good news is, I always say, if you've been there, you know the way back. So, okay, we're going to slip, we're going to fall, we're going to get off the rails every now and then, but we know the way back. And usually the way back involves using our support systems, our accountability teams to get us back on the track, doing what we know works. So other than that, I can't think of anything really big right now, because those have been the two big ones in recent years. Trying to get and stay in as good a shape as I can at my age, and not have those big reactions to my wife's projections on me. And I've gotten better at both, primarily because I've had a team of men around me, support team that know me well. Later this afternoon, I've got a call with a group of 6 guys that we've been meeting together every other week on Zoom for the last 7 years, and we're in it for life. We when we started, we committed that we would do this for life, and so I still need that. I still need that support to get me through my challenging times, to reveal my weaknesses, my dark spots, my shadow. And so I'm just a big fan. Don't do it alone. Build a team, get a coach, get a mentor, get your men's group, get your 12 step, get whatever you need. And the more the better, but don't do it alone. Don't do it alone.
Yeah, I can relate to both of those. Like this feeling of you want to be on top of your partner's emotions and like be there to lift them back up, when in reality it's just an emotional state, and a lot of the times
It's the weather. It comes and goes.
you just have to let it ride itself out.
Yeah. And that's a
So
loving thing to do. That's not mean. Because I realized if I didn't let my wife find her own way through her own internal storms, if she was dependent on me to get her through them, usually in not real functional ways, it often end up in a fight, right? That's not functional. I joke with her, she'll get that look or her mood, and I'll go, what? Nothing. All this is all in Spanish because she's Mexican, doesn't speak English. No, I go, whenever you say nothing, it's something. And she goes, same old thing. I go, all right, you got about 12 same old things. She goes, well, I don't want to fight. I go, yeah, you do. You like to fight. Because she does. That's a Mexican thing. They like to fight. So I go, how about this? Don't tell me what's bothering you. How about we just skip? You tell me what's bothering you. I try to drag it out of you. I try to talk you down through and over. And how about we just skip to the part where I just start yelling at you and say hurtful things. You cry and then I hold you and you feel better. And she goes, no, it's not the same if you're not really mad at me. I go, okay, how about this? I'm not going to try to pry it out of you. If you want to tell me what's bothering you, tell me. Or if you just want to work it out on your own, work it out on your own. But let me know. And yeah, when I let her do her own work, she gets through it. She gets through it, and we don't have the big fights in between. So yeah, I had to soothe myself. I still do, to let her go through her own stuff. And then, she's okay. The weather passes. It always does.
what does your dream life look like?
It's right in front of me. I love my life. I, I I live in Mexico. People say, Robert, you're so lucky. You live in Mexico. You got a great wife. You're changing the world. You're living with purpose. And I always say, no luck involved. Do you know what it took to get a PhD at 29? Do you know what it took to write 4 books? You know what it took to move my whole business to a foreign country? You know what? But you know what? Yeah, there is a lot of luck. There's a lot of open doors I've walked through. But you kind of, the saying goes, funny how the harder I work, the luckier I get. I love my life. I love where I live. I love my home. I love my wife. I love that I can travel. I love I get to work with men. I love my dog. I think the only thing that I would try to weave in more of, and I think about this, and I constantly check in. I would like to be writing more than I am. There's some more books I want to get done. So I have to keep adjusting, kind of the things I take on, how full my plate gets so I can keep writing. So my ideal life would involve more writing than I'm doing. Um, it would probably involve more time in nature than what I'm getting. I've got a really a nice Winnebago Mercedes RV parked at my mother's house up in Seattle, and I get up there quite a bit in the summer, and my wife and I go camping. I'd like to do more of that. I got the RV a couple years ago because I could see maybe some kind of retirement, at least when my stepdaughter gets out of high school, and we might travel more. And I like being in the RV. I like being in nature. I think I would spend a little bit more time in solitude than I have right now. I have to really work to weave in kind of escapes, whether it going camping by myself, going to, I'm going to be in Austin in a few weeks. And I've set it up where I'll spend enough time there that I'll have a little bit of time just, by myself. No work demands, nothing on my calendar, just alone time. So I try to weave, in more of those things And I think if I had more of those, more writing time, more time just in nature, and more time just solitude, I think my life, that'd be icing on top of a really great life. So I think those are the pieces, yeah, that I do pay attention to and do consciously try to work more into my life.
Dr. Robert Glover. Robert, this has been a very interesting conversation. I feel like I've been learning so much from you. And as a recovering nice guy myself, I really, really appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for the invitation. As you can see, I like doing this. I have a good time. I have fun. So thank you for bringing me on your show, and I hope your listeners get value out of it.
Yeah. Where can people find out more about you?
Just come on down to Puerto Vallarta. Just come hang out. drglover.com is my website with my classes, my workshops, my podcast, everything I got going on. integrationnation.net is my men's membership program. So if anybody listening to this resonated with, I need to connect more with men, this is a good starting place. Just check it out, integrationnation.net. And and then come on down to Puerto Vallarta and hang out.
Awesome. Bye, everybody.